Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Hummingbird Assembly. I'm Reverend Michelle, and it's my pleasure to be here with you all as we discuss universal laws continuing. Before we get into our discussion, though, I want to remind you that our intention here is to stimulate thought, create connection, and expand consciousness. We are an assembly of people who will teach each other to find the miracle of joyful living from life circumstance to accomplish that which seems impossible. Our announcements this week are the same as they have been for a couple of weeks. Over on the table on the side, we continue to have our white box where you are invited to make your donation to support our ongoing costs. And the green box, in my opinion, is the most important. This is where I ask you to make suggestions for what you would like to discuss, because this is your assembly, and I would like it to stay relevant to what you are facing in your life. If you put anything in the box right now that you would like to discuss before we get to the end of the 20 universal laws, please just make a note of that on the sheet, because we can absolutely come back to these laws. They're universal, they're long-standing, they're not going anywhere, so we can come back to them. So that's that about the green box. We also have the RSVP list for our members. We invite them to join us next week for our annual general meeting, our first ever. And a member is defined very loosely as someone who has attended regularly for the past 6 months. So if you would like to attend our annual general meeting, please make sure you're on the RSVP list, as we are making final arrangements for lunch now. Also over there, we have ballots available for people to nominate yourselves and others who are members of the Assembly to take seats on our new board of directors who will be voted in at that annual general meeting. We are accepting ballots up until noon on Wednesday. So that's just 3 more sleeps. If there's somebody's name that you want to put in that box, feel free to do so. There's also a sheet of paper that outlines what positions we are seeking to fill, if you wanted to have a better understanding of what you are committing yourself or others to. Is there anything else that I need to announce? We continue to collect awakening stories. If anybody would like to submit to admin@hummingbirdAssembly.com. And yes, I think those are all the things.
Did you say there are already 2 stories on there?
There are 2 stories.
Can we access them now?
We haven't,
okay.
They are just in the inbox,
okay.
waiting for compilation.
Okay.
But one of the things that the new board will be addressing is what to do with them in the meantime. So perhaps there will be like a spotlight on awakening stories on our website, and you can access them for a period of time.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for asking that. Let us begin with our opening intention. May I come to understand that blessings are everywhere, that my attitude will affect outcomes, that challenges are often gifts in disguise. May I come to trust that most things can get better with time, that my instincts and gut feelings have value, and that a positive attitude makes things go smoother. May I come to see that I have many skills and talents I can use, that I am a positive influence on many people, and that there are those around me who wish me well. May I come to value that today is a blessing to be enjoyed, that each person is unique and important, and that each moment of my life has meaning. We're going to get into discussion. I want to just ask a question as point of order for the people attending in the room. We do have several people with us online right now. And normally we do not engage with our online community directly while we are discussing, but I wonder if perhaps today we would be open to them commenting and chatting, and we can respond and include you in the discussion. So if you would like to post any questions while you're following us online, I will be doing my best to pay attention to the chat window, and we'll answer or discuss the points that you are making. Okay, does that sound good to those of you watching? Great, okay. So today we are discussing, oh, good, I see Shandace has chatted already. Excellent. But today we are discussing, if we get through this one and onto another one, the universal law of one. I think this is my favorite law right now. All right, so what it says is every soul, living and discarnate, is connected at the level of the collective unconscious, deep within the higher self. We are all a part of a great energy Gestalt called God, and because we are part of God, we are God. It is the goal of the Gesalt to move the energy forward, creating more energy. So in living harmoniously, we each increase our vibrational rate and intensify the vibration of the entire Gesalt. When we are disharmonious, we decrease the vibration of the entire Gesalt. Because we are one, everything you think, say, and do affects every other soul. Before, I want to define Gesalt, because we had to do that last time. So Gesalt is defined as an organized whole that is perceived as more than the sum of its parts. Okay? All right. Anybody have any initial thoughts about that law? Or shall I read it again at this point?
Read it again, please.
Okay. Every soul, living and disincarnate, is connected at the level of collective unconscious, deep within the higher self. We are all a part of a great energy Gesalt called God, and because we are a part of God, we are God. It is the goal of the Gesalt to move the energy forward, creating more energy. So in living harmoniously, we each increase our vibrational rate and intensify the vibration of the entire Gesalt. When we are disharmonious, we decrease the vibration of the entire Gesalt because we are one. Everything you think, say, and do affects every other soul.
Okay, so because we are part of God.
Can you speak a little bit louder? If you can.
Because we are part of God, then we are a part of the Gesalt. So that is how our energy fluctuations affect the Gesalt.
Right.
Okay.
And the only thing that I would say to that is that we are not a part of God, we are God.
True. I meant to say we are.
It does say a part here too.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
the day I finally got that realization and the light came on and it was like, wow, this is beautiful.
Isn't it though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And that was actually the first part that jumped out for me that I thought perhaps we'd want to discuss. Does anybody have any comment on the idea that we are God, not just part of God? Does everyone feel like they agree to that? They accept that as a truth?
Accept that. Can I say? I think it's easy to feel you're a part of God when you're doing really well and you're getting along well with people. But then when you're having a difficult time, and maybe you're not being so nice to your partner. You know, you're in an argument or something with them.
Yeah.
You're sitting there going, that's not very godly, you know what I mean? And then you feel, you know, you're thinking, well, definitely God doesn't have negative aspects or disharmonious moments.
Except that you're God. So I would say for sure God has bad days.
That's the question. Does God have bad days? Okay. So.
I think from a spiritual standpoint, you know, if the God were to speak, it would say that everything is neutral. There really is no good or bad. There just simply is. And I think that would be more how the God within me wants to respond to that idea. And the language they use in this law is harmony versus disharmony, right?
Yeah, but the divine that's in you is also in me. You know? So
Exactly.
it's the same. It's the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Exactly.
I have some conflicts and acceptance of that.
Good. And go, bring it on.
Because of what we're saying God is. Like, I think that we are a part of this Gestalt or whatever the term is. But my conflict is that God.
Mm. So is it with the term?
I think that, yes. I think that the term God or creator gives some sort of human quality to this essence, this universal essence, maybe this vibrational energy or however you want to describe it. so we can understand it and we can personify it, and maybe it's that personification that I have a conflict with.
So is it that the personification inherently exists, or is it that we as a human apply it?
I think it's we as humans apply that to further our understanding of it.
So your issue isn't really with the term God. It's with what we do to that term.
Well, I think yes, we quantify things and we label things for comparison.
Totally. Yeah.
And if you take away the labels, then you take away the comparison, and that can be a very freeing and liberating thing. Politicians did that.
It is the law of one. There's no competition.
What do you mean by that?
We're all connected.
I guess my question is, what is that in response to? That there's no competition?
I think it was just Kevin's thought that when we label it, which I understand, like I totally get that. I think it is a human construct to do that.
Yeah.
Then we automatically assume there's competition in it. But if we're all connected, then to me there isn't competition.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a difference in competition and comparison.
Fair.
And in comparison, because we label this thing, then it's hard for people to grasp. If you label something else other than yourself, then you're a part of that.
You are a part of what you've labeled outside of you?
Well, it's hard to be a part of
like
that
I've
other
labeled
label.
myself mom.
Yeah.
So that makes me a part of a group.
Yes.
And by labeling myself God, it makes me part of...
Well, by calling something a God, if you call yourself a God, you can become part of that.
So then are you suggesting that because we put a label on something, we are limiting what it can be?
Oh.
Because it must fit into that category or that drawer?
Yes.
Because I felt that about the word God, and I had to change it in my own context to an energy so that I could conceive how God could be within all of us and everywhere at one time. If I kept it as the human factor of God as a person, I have a very difficult time stretching out to everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Your label idea is a really interesting one too. I don't know if you've read The Four and the Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz. That's exactly one of the things as a Toltec that he talks about, labels. And if you think to a child who's not speaking yet, there's no differentiation with that child to any other person. They are one with everyone. And the moment they start learning, oh, that's a tree, oh, that's a boy, oh, that's a black person, suddenly all those constructs, they start coming into place. But they're not there when we first come here because we don't understand the labels.
We don't need order when we're an infant, right?
It is interesting though when you really start thinking about that and how it works. Once those I love that. I love that philosophy, the labels.
There was the question of, does God have bad days?
Right.
And if you are labeling something as God and you have a notion of what God is and this benevolence and happiness and things like that, then that causes that question to occur. But if God is everything in everyone,
God just is.
I also think, like,
Period.
The word God, it depends on how you were raised, what it's going to mean for you.
Oh, for sure. Because let me tell you, I rallied against that word for years.
Because if you've been told God is an angry, jealous God, and I sat there a while ago and said, wait a minute, if parents are the supposed mature ones raising their children and teaching them better, why would and I don't want to see God in a parent role, and I kind of sometimes stop using the word God because it gets me into trouble. So I try one or spirit or or the divine or whatever.
I say divine usually.
Divine, because I humanized God, into this, I'm going to get punished. I'm going to get punished.
Right.
And then I had to go, wait a cotton pick a minute. What have you ever done that's so terrible, that you got to be punished? And
right.
it was, so I think I think God is a very emotive word. It brings up all kinds of emotions in people. So I think the oneness maybe, is the thing to focus on, to all being, part of the one or the divine or whatever. I don't know what word, but occasionally I have a problem with God.
Yeah.
I mean, the word God.
Yeah. You touched on something a minute ago that is not at all related to this law. There is a law coming up of the divine law or divine order, but you said infants don't need order. And I would suggest that infants trust infinitely in divine order and don't need to control it because order is happening for them exactly as it's meant to. We look at something that is not ordered and we see chaos. They look at something and know that they're at exactly the right moment. Anyway, it's totally not related to law of oneness, but I had that thought and I wanted to.
Is it 10 minutes?
15.
Okay, so.
Morning. Good morning.
I didn't have my hearing aids on. I don't have my hearing aids on, so I didn't know. Oh, good morning. Welcome. I won't make fun of you because you brought a friend.
I brought a friend.
So we are discussing the law of one.
The law of one? Okay, awesome.
My favorite law.
Thanks.
And what we were just discussing is the whole idea that we are God.
Right.
So the beginning of the law says, every soul, living and discarnate, is connected at the level of collective unconscious, deep within the higher self. We are all a part of a great energy Gestalt called God. And because we are a part of God, we are God. It is the goal of the Gestalt to move the energy forward, creating more energy. So when living harmoniously, we each increase our vibrational rate and intensify the vibration of the entire Gestalt. When we are disharmonious, we decrease the vibration of the entire Gestalt. And because we are one, everything you think, say, and do affects every other soul. So let's talk about this idea of moving energy forward. The goal of the Gestalt is to move the energy forward, creating more energy. What does that mean?
To me, it would be that the purpose of the Gestalt is to teach us to love, because when we love, everything moves forward. Love unconditionally.
Love and what?
Love unconditionally.
Unconditionally.
Would it mean also like raising your vibration as well? As a whole? Then we raise that level of the Gestalt. Correct?
Yes. You said love will raise the vibration. Yes? Is that what you said?
I said raise our vibration,
Yes.
which would raise the whole entire level of the
Yes.
Gestalt.
Yes.
And love would raise our vibration,
Of course.
right?
Yes.
Of course.
Okay.
And that's the
clarify.
goal. It says that this is what happens. The vibrational rate intensifies the vibration of the entire Gestalt. So if we think about this idea of one, somebody gifted me this analogy recently and I just loved it. We think about the idea of one as an ocean. We are all the ocean and each of us are a drop.
In the ocean.
And if you think about being in water, any of us who have ever been children and you pee in the water, it's warmer right where you are. And then that warmness ripples out, right? So think about this like in terms of your vibration. You are warmer when you are vibrating higher. And people who are around you can't help but be affected by that.
So we all have
And then around you,
yeah, we have to
you get the pee warm.
Or continually.
yes. We all have to keep peeing at the same time. We all feel the warmth.
You made me ache.
The levels too, like there's only love in fear. Fear vibrates at, I think it's 110 hertz. Love vibrates over 500 hertz.
Oh, really?
That says right there, if we all do nothing but spread love, holy cow, the world's going to explode.
Yeah.
A love bomb.
Yeah. Selena says here, so would we be like seeds being sent out into the universe to grow and propagate? Are you Catholic, Selena? That sounds like doctrine.
Go ye into all the world.
But yes, I really think that's the idea, that as we vibrate higher, to be around people so that those people can also in turn be vibrating higher. And you may have a hard time thinking about a time in your life when you've been around someone who was just so full of joy and love, and therefore you were like felt better. But think about the reverse. When you've been around someone who's full of hate, someone who's full of hurt, someone who is depressed, and you're with them and your vibration sinks, right? And part of that is because we have this deep need to not leave people alone. Like, I think that's part of our inherentness, the whole idea of being one and being interconnected. We want to not leave people alone. But the impact is that you also get lower, which doesn't help anybody, because now there's 2 freezing cold spots on the ocean and need some pee over there.
However, we're choosing to get lower.
Pardon me?
We are choosing to allow ourselves to get lower. We can choose to remain higher when you're around a negative person. We don't have to become influenced by them. It's our
But
choice.
the law says right here, it says, when we are disharmonious, we decrease the vibration of the entire Gestalт. So perhaps, like, how would that happen if you were around someone who was negative?
Then you raise
You
them.
choose to remain.
But don't you have to choose, to your point, don't you have to choose to increase?
Yes.
But what if they don't choose that?
Well, I
No,
think
what we're
that you
talking about-
choose to remain
choose
at
to
your
remain.
level.
Yeah.
It's my choice to what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
I understand what she's saying. Yes.
But if a positive and a negative can't be at the same spot at the same time, then would it not be that the universe would have to create something that would separate the two so that there can't be a distinct positive and a distinct negative in the same place at the same time?
I think you could have a positive and a negative at the same time. I think one has to shift.
Exactly, but then they would be closer to the same. But if you have a very strong negative and a very strong positive, and neither one refuses to shift to bring their level closer to the other, something would have to happen to separate them because they can't be together.
Well, I think on a certain level, not a vibrational level, but if you have compassion for that person, then you have shifted.
Exactly. But then
You've
they would
shifted
also
you, or
have
you've
to,
shifted them?
Well, you have shifted you, and if you are displaying compassion to somebody that is at a lower level, unless there's some severe mental health issues, then there is a reciprocal response from that other person where they are recognizing your compassion.
Well, one of 2 things will happen, right? If they decide they want to be shifted with you, they will recognize your compassion and appreciate it, or they will recognize your compassion and give you trouble for always taking pity on them and I didn't want your sympathy, which I think is what you're talking about, right? I think it's less that the universe makes the decision, but each individual makes the decision about how they want to respond, which is, I think, what you were initially saying, right? We make a decision. Do we want to sink lower to be with them?
I don't wish to be influenced.
But doesn't
by
your heart
negative.
instinctively hurt?
If you are empathetic.
Yeah, I think you might feel.
Yeah.
it.
Or if it's somebody who you truly love and they are in this place.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's temporary. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, and yes, it does lower. It would lower my vibration, but it would do it on a temporary level.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't keep me there
Right.
necessarily.
Because then you choose later to.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't we have an example right now? I mean, look worldwide, what's going on. Terrorists, our southern neighbors. there's a lot of negative going on, but it is coexisting with the massive changes that are happening in the world with regard to awakening and higher consciousness. We are coexisting, and I think ultimately as we move forward, those that can't raise their vibration or their consciousness will transition back home. They won't stay for this new order that I do believe is coming. It may not be in my lifetime, but I do believe there's a new order coming someday.
Selena comments here saying, or do the vibrations just cancel each other out in an energetic level?
I don't think energy can be destroyed, can it?
No.
And the
Well, no,
other
it
thing
just
is-
gets transmuted. That's what physics tells us.
Yeah, right.
Energy cannot matter. Energy does not
That's
die.
right. But I just have, I believe that unconditional love and compassion are like, cannot be destroyed. That's my personal belief, that it cannot be destroyed. So even if it's amongst negativity or something pulling it down, pulling that energy, I just think unconditional love and compassion are indestructible.
Yeah.
That's what I like to believe. I mean, it doesn't mean it's true, but
I don't think they cancel each other out either.
Yeah, I don't.
But I think they will come to an equal ground.
But somebody taught me a lesson last year. Pointed something out to me that became a lesson. That I was having an issue with my brother, just in my head. It wasn't a discussion between us. It was in my thing. Well,
those are the best disagreements.
But sort of in a way being judgmental about his life. But I was worried about his life and stuff. And then someone said to me, "You kind of don't have the right to kind of want to control." And I wasn't even trying to control him, but when you have an expectation of someone else, it is in essence, I expect you to behave this way because I was nice to you, or I was compassionate, unconditionally loving, so you should return that. Well, if that person's not capable of it, you in a way are trying to control them because your expectation is a form of control.
Right.
And when they said that to me, I went away and thought about it, and it was like a kind of a mind-blowing thing that took a while to get through, but I thought about it for a couple of months, and it's kind of made me, now when I think about certain people in my life or something like that, I'll start going, are you trying in a way, you're upset they're not behaving this way, you behave this way, you thought you were being kind and nice, they're not returning it, what, like kind of getting angry and going, hey, Missy, you're not in control, you do your stuff so you don't behave the way you wish to behave, so that you cannot come back at yourself and say, oh, I gave in to, I was being nice to them, they weren't, you know what I mean? I don't want to, somebody said to me years ago, you don't want to sink to their level. So, and that sounds judgmental in itself, but anyway, it's just my thoughts go off.
I think that what you're describing there invites that we apply unconditional to that too. So when we're acting in love and kindness, because you're right, you're absolutely right that when we expect that people are going to call us back when we leave them a message, or we shoveled their walk, so they're going to cut my lawn. When we have those expectations, we are trying to control an outcome. Absolutely, 100%. And the job is to take that word that we use so easily with love, unconditional, and apply it to all of our actions. You must do what you do without any expectation of gain. Which allows you to be in a state of incredible gratitude when it is reciprocated.
Because it's not expected.
Right.
Well,
because it is a gift.
It's a gift.
Yeah. And if you are expecting something in return, then it's not unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yes.
We all need to discover our gifts and then give them away.
That's a good one.
That's going on Facebook tomorrow. I wrote it this morning.
And love is the one thing you can never give away because it always comes back.
Yeah.
I would have to say I agree with
Michelle, I'm not wearing my hearing aids today. I'm sorry.
the warmth. I guess I'm stuck on when we're in an environment, I think about work and being in maybe a negative environment, and now I think about how to maintain that if you're having a higher vibration, there's only so much pee.
And you can put in the sea.
When you're stuck in a tidal pool of people that are dropping number 2.
it's very difficult because the way the workplace environment is set up is it's a whole construct of expectations.
Yeah.
Your expectations, their expectations, the organization's expectations, the financial expectations. There's such a series of conditions.
And I know, like,
work will never love you back.
yeah,
Right?
and you know, like you can love your coworkers, but if they're in a place, it's very hard to stay up here because you spend more confined time with them than your family, and so
Honestly, I just walk away from them. They're used to it now. I just walk away. It's like, oh God, not this again. And
Well,
I just walk away.
I've taken a different approach with a previous job where there was somebody that they just didn't fit into the group. Their work style, everything about them just didn't fit into the group. And the group outside of him was complaining ferociously about this specific person. So I said, I'll go talk to him. I went and talked to him. And you can only, when somebody is struggling, they're not struggling, like it wasn't his intention to be that type of person and that toxin in the work environment. So we had our talk, and then he left 6 months later. So.
Yeah, but you showed him compassion. I think that is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and in my work style, I work in teams quite a bit. And if there's a problem, you should always find a solution. So instead of focusing on the issue and the problem, find a solution. And that solution might be listening. You know, it might be not talking about the issue, or it could be providing something very positive to that problem.
I like that.
You know what I think of though in that sense, because I think of like a job that I had gone, I was like gung-ho, and the place was dead. And I'm like there's only so much facing I can do of this merchandise. And they had come, were that, I don't think this is the right place for you. And I was like, oh, thank God you said that,
Right.
And it was that, like, these people are and I'm like, hey, done. Now what? It's been 10 minutes into this 4-hour shift, right? And they were just like, you're
too efficient.
Yes.
Shanda's
Too happy.
Shanda's comments here saying we should perform all of our daily actions with the same unconditional love that we did when we did the love letters a few weeks ago. And then she did a little heart. We don't expect love letters back, just to spray it, just to raise and spread the love.
Good point.
Can you leave love letters at work?
Not love letters, but
Well, so I used to be in HR. You're right. You definitely can't leave. We did this project a couple of weeks ago called Love Letters to Strangers, where we set up a bunch of tables in here, and there were note cards and papers to make your own cards, and very cool things called glue dots, which I'm now addicted to thanks to Bev. And we wrote notes to random people, saying things like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I don't even know all the things that we wrote, but we just wrote notes, and then we went out into the community and hid them in bushes or left them in bathroom stalls or put them on tables in coffee shops and bank machines and various places for random people to find them, without expectation that we would ever get that note back or even ever find out who got that note. Can you do something like that at work?
I think that you can do a couple things at work. You can give them gifts about their work, or you can give them